The trade world of Kara's Reach was loud even before sunrise. Heavy ships floated above the city like metal clouds. Their engines growled day and night. The air smelled of fuel, dust, and old metal. Creatures from many worlds walked through narrow streets, some free, some not. In the lower district, a young human named Iran walked alone. His jacket was thin and worn. His boots had cracks, but he kept walking as if he did not notice the cold metal ground. He carried a small bag with tools he used for small repair work. He fixed doors, power lines, and broken lights for anyone willing to pay a few credits. Humans were rare on Kara's Reach. Most aliens believed humans were weak, short-lived, and best avoided. Iran had learned this quickly. He kept his head low and spoke little. That was how he survived. At the center of the lower district stood the chain market. Tall metal poles rose from the ground. Energy cuffs glowed around the necks and wrists of enslaved beings. Buyers moved slowly, pointing and talking as if they were choosing machines instead of living souls. Iran hated this place. He always took the long way around it. But today, a broken power relay near the market paid well, and he needed food. He told himself he would fix it fast and leave. As he worked on the relay, sharp voices cut through the noise. A group of guards dragged a small alien girl forward. She was thin, with pale blue skin and dark eyes too large for her face. Her steps were weak and she nearly fell. The guards laughed. Iran looked away at first. He told himself it was not his problem. He was one human alone, far from home. Getting involved meant death. But the sound came again. A soft cry, barely louder than the hum of machines. He looked back. The alien girl was struggling to breathe. The energy collar around her neck flickered in a bad way. It was too strong, too tight. She fell to her knees. Buyers stepped back, annoyed. "She's breaking," one of them said. "Not worth much now." A guard raised his shock rod. Something twisted inside Iran's chest. He did not think, he moved. "Stop," Iran said, his voice shaking but loud enough to carry. The guards turned, surprised. A human had spoken. "What did you say?" one guard asked. "She's dying," Iran said. "The collar is wrong." "It's overloaded." The guards laughed harder. "And why should we care, little human?" the leader said. "Move along before you get hurt." Iran stepped closer. Every eye in the market turned to him. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. "If you lower the output," Iran said, pointing at the collar, "she might live. You can still sell her." The guard's smile faded. He did not like being told what to do, especially by a human. He swung the shock rod. Iran moved without thinking. He grabbed the rod with both hands. Pain exploded through his arms. His muscles locked. He screamed, but he did not let go. The market fell silent. The alien girl looked up at him. Her eyes were wide, confused. Iran used his other hand to pull a small tool from his belt. Sparks flew as he jammed it into the collar's control port. The energy field dropped for half a second. That was enough. The girl gasped, pulling in air like someone rising from deep water. She collapsed, breathing hard. The guard roared in anger and kicked Iran in the chest. Iran flew backward and hit the ground. His vision blurred. Alarms started to scream. A containment field around the market flickered. The sudden energy change had triggered a system fault. Panic spread. Some captives ran. Buyers shouted. Guards fired stun bolts into the air. Iran tried to stand, but a heavy boot pressed him down. "You stupid human," the guard leader said. "You cost us credits." He raised his weapon. The alien girl crawled toward Iran. She placed her small hand on his arm. "No," she whispered in broken trade speech. "Please." For a moment the guard hesitated. Then another alarm sounded, louder than before. "Field failure," a voice announced. "All units respond." The guards cursed. The leader grabbed Iran by the collar and dragged him toward a transport cage. The girl was pulled away by the crowd. Iran lost sight of her. As the cage door slammed shut, Iran's strength faded. Pain spread through his body, but his mind stayed clear. He did not regret it. Around him, other prisoners watched in silence. Some looked angry, some looked afraid. One old alien with stone-like skin shook his head slowly. "Why?" the alien asked. "Why would you do that?" Iran swallowed. His throat burned. "Because she was dying," he said. The transport lifted off. Through the small window, Iran saw the chain market shrink into the distance. Unknown to him, high above the planet, sensors recorded everything. A human interfering, a system failure, a choice no one expected. And far away, in places where humans were remembered only as weak traders or old stories, something began to stir. The galaxy had just noticed one small act, and it would not forget it. The transport ship rattled as it moved through the lower atmosphere of Kara's reach. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of burned metal and fear. Captives of many species sat huddled together, their energy cuffs glowing faintly. Most avoided looking at one another, their eyes fixed on the floor or the small cracks in the metal walls. Iran lay against the cage wall, bruised and aching from the guards' blows. His chest heaved as he tried to control his breathing. Every part of his body screamed pain, but his mind refused to stop moving. He knew the alien girl, Luma, he thought of her name silently, was still out there. She had escaped the chaos, but he did not know where. The thought of her alone, afraid, was worse than the physical pain. Around him, the other prisoners whispered in languages he could not understand. One large, gray-skinned alien with ridges along his head leaned over and muttered, "Why would a human fight for her?" His voice was rough but curious. Iran shook his head. "I don't know," he said quietly. "I just couldn't let her die." The gray alien nodded slowly as if that made sense. Another prisoner, a small reptilian creature with bright green scales, sneered. "Humans are weak," it hissed. "You just made yourself a target." Iran didn't answer. He focused on the hum of the ship, the vibration in the floor, and the small hope that he could do something. He could not let Luma suffer. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time moved strangely inside the transport. The guards hardly spoke, but their energy rods glowed brighter, warning of even small disobedience. One of them, taller than the others, walked past Iran and muttered to the control panel, "Keep them in line. No one dies before delivery." The words made Iran's stomach turn. They did not see the prisoners as living beings, only cargo, only profit. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently. A warning siren screamed and sparks flew from the walls. The cage shook, throwing prisoners to the floor. Iran grabbed a nearby bar to steady himself. "What happened?" the gray alien asked, his voice trembling. Iran did not answer immediately. He was too busy noticing movement above the cage. Something small and quick slipped between the shadows. It was Luma. She had snuck aboard the ship, somehow avoiding the guards. Her small hands clutched a piece of metal tubing and her dark eyes were wide with fear. Their eyes met. For a moment, nothing else existed. Iran felt a surge of relief, quickly followed by concern. She had risked everything to find him. Before he could speak, a guard noticed her. The rod in the guard's hand sparked to life. He shouted, "Intruder!" Luma ducked behind another prisoner, moving silently. Iran pushed himself to stand, ignoring the pain in his ribs. He could not leave her, not now. The prisoners around him stirred. Some froze in fear. Others watched, unsure if they should help. Iran grabbed the closest loose piece of metal and stood in front of Luma. "Go!" he shouted. "Run while you can." The girl hesitated, but the command in his voice made her move. She slipped past him and toward the small maintenance hatch at the far end of the cage. The guard swung the rod. Sparks flew, narrowly missing Iran. He blocked another swing with the metal bar, feeling a sharp jolt travel through his arm. Pain radiated, but he did not falter. Other captives began to notice. Some started throwing small objects at the guards, not with skill, but with desperation. One of the gray-skinned aliens knocked a guard off balance, giving Iran just enough time to push open a part of the cage door. The chaos inside the transport grew. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the ship rocked violently. Iran helped two small captives slip out of the cage before turning back to the hatch where Luma had gone. The hatch led to a narrow maintenance corridor. Iran followed, limping, ignoring the pain that stabbed his ribs with every step. Sparks from damaged circuits lit the corridor in brief flashes. He found Luma crouched in the shadows. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice low. I think so," she whispered. Her hands were shaking, but she smiled faintly. "You saved me." Iran shook his head. "No, you saved me too, coming back for me." The corridor ended in a maintenance ladder leading to the ship's outer deck. The wind howled as they climbed. Iran gripped the metal rungs, feeling every vibration from the ship's engines. Above, the sky of Kara's Reach was dark, streaked with the lights of passing ships. Somewhere in that vast space, freedom awaited, but the ship's alarm had reached a critical level. Guards would be everywhere soon. They reached the outer deck. Iran looked down at the drop below. It was high enough to be deadly, but the maintenance tubes and scaffolding offered a chance. "Can you jump?" he asked. Luma nodded, fear and determination in her eyes. "Hold my hand," Iran said. "Don't let go." Together they leapt, landing awkwardly but alive on a lower scaffolding. Metal groaned under their weight. The ship shook and alarms screamed louder. Behind them, guards began to appear, shouting and firing stun bolts. Iran ducked behind a support beam, catching his breath. Luma pressed against his side, small and trembling. "We have to move," he said. "They'll capture us again if we stay here." They ran through the scaffolding, leaping from platform to platform. The ship was chaotic, its crew unprepared for prisoners escaping. Some captives joined them, emboldened by Iran's bravery. A small group of aliens ran silently, following his lead, creating a chain of escape. At the far end of the ship, a hatch led to the void, open air and stars beyond. It was dangerous, but it was freedom. Iran and Luma reached it first. Iran looked back at the chaos behind him. Guards were shouting, firing at the escaping captives, but some were already gone, lost in the shadows of the ship. "Go," he shouted. "Now." Luma nodded and slipped into the open air, using her small propulsion device to float down safely to the lower platforms. Iran followed, his body aching, lungs burning, but he kept moving. When they finally landed on a lower deck, safe for the moment, Iran looked around. Some captives had made it, some were captured again, but the escape had begun. He looked at Luma. Her eyes shone with relief, fear, and something else, trust. "We need to keep moving," he said quietly. "They will come for us." She nodded. "I will follow you," she said. The two of them vanished into the shadows of the ship, unseen for now. But the transport's alarm still blared. Somewhere above, the remaining guards were regrouping. Iran did not know what waited ahead, only that he had risked everything and now he could not stop. Somewhere in the galaxy, small acts could start bigger changes. And in that moment, Iran knew this was only the beginning. The abandoned station hung in space like a broken tooth, its metal hull scarred from years of neglect. Dark lights flickered in the corridors, and the faint hum of failing energy systems echoed through the halls. This was where the transport had delivered its captives. The air smelled of oil, rust, and fear. Iran limped through the station's docking bay, clutching his ribs. Luma moved beside him, quiet but alert. Around them, other escaped prisoners huddled, eyes wide with suspicion and confusion. The guards had mostly left to secure the remaining captives, but every shadow in the hall seemed to hold a threat. A tall alien with 4 arms and mottled brown skin stepped from the shadows. His name was Tarek, a former soldier who had been enslaved years ago. He studied Iran closely, curiosity and caution in his many eyes. "You are brave," Tarek said in a rough voice. "Few humans would risk themselves like this. Why did you?" Iran shook his head, ignoring the pain. "Because I couldn't let her die," he said simply. "It was wrong. I couldn't just watch." Luma looked at him, her dark eyes wide. "He is different," she whispered to Tarek. "Humans, maybe some of them can be trusted. The station was not empty for long. A loud voice echoed through the halls. "Find them! No one escapes the syndicate." The captives froze. The syndicate controlled this station, a private group that traded slaves and secrets across the galaxy. They did not tolerate failures or disobedience. Iran pushed himself forward. "We need a plan," he said. "We can't fight them head-on." "We move silently, find a safe place, and wait for a chance." Tarek nodded. "There is a storage level below, old maintenance tunnels. Hard to navigate, but it may work." As they moved, Luma revealed why she had escaped with Iran. "They know who I am," she said softly. "My people, they are rare. They were thought extinct. If the syndicate sells me to the wrong buyer, the consequences will be worse than death." Iran's heart pounded. He had thought he was saving just one life, but now he understood. Luma carried more than herself. She carried history, knowledge, and a legacy that could change many worlds. The group moved carefully through the station's dark halls. Every sound, a dripping pipe, a loose panel, or a distant footstep made them freeze. At one point, a patrol almost found them. Iran pressed himself flat against the wall, holding Luma close. Her small body trembled against his chest. When the patrol passed, he whispered, "Stay close. Don't make a sound." They reached the maintenance tunnels. The air was colder here, and the walls were lined with old cables and pipes. It smelled of rust and long-abandoned machinery. The tunnels twisted and turned, and the group had to crawl in places, squeezing through narrow gaps. Iran led the way. He noticed strange markings on the walls, old signs left by engineers who had worked here decades ago. Some symbols matched human codes he had learned as a child. A memory flashed in his mind. Humans were explorers, humans were builders. And now a human could choose to save instead of destroy. The group stopped in a small chamber, a temporary safe point. Tarek and two other aliens, one small, bird-like, the other a sturdy quadruped, rested while Iran examined the map he had memorized of the station's layout. Luma knelt nearby, her small hands tracing one of the tunnels. "I don't understand humans," she said softly. "You are weak, but you are strong. Strange, unpredictable strength." Iran smiled faintly, grimacing at the pain in his ribs. "Strength isn't always in muscle or weapons," he said. "Sometimes it's in choices, and sometimes it's in caring when no one else does." The calm did not last. A loud explosion shook the tunnels. Dust and debris rained down. Iran pulled Luma to cover. The other captives scrambled, eyes wide. "They are coming," Tarek growled. "The syndicate will hunt us with everything they have." Iran took a deep breath. He knew the next move was dangerous. The tunnels were narrow, and many of the doors had locks only an experienced hand could bypass. But there was one way, a service elevator that could take them to the station's outer deck. From there, they might escape, or at least signal for help. The group moved carefully toward the elevator shaft. Iran led, listening to every sound. The syndicate's soldiers were trained hunters, but they were used to fear and obedience. Humans were unpredictable. That was their advantage. When they reached the shaft, Iran examined the control panel. Sparks flew from exposed wires. A standard hack would have taken minutes. He had seconds. He pressed his hand against the panel, feeling the heat from the circuits. Sweat dripped down his face. The elevator jolted. The cables groaned and the metal floor shuddered. Iran held his breath, praying it would hold. Finally, the doors opened to the outer deck. Stars stretched in every direction. A cargo bay hung below them, far enough to be deadly if they fell. The station's lights flickered. Somewhere above, syndicate ships patrolled, searching for escapees. Iran glanced at Luma. "We need to move fast," he said. She nodded, determination in her eyes. "I will follow," she said. The group prepared to climb down to the cargo bay. Each step was risky, but the station was unstable, and time was against them. Iran led, checking each foothold before allowing the others to follow. Suddenly, the station shook violently. An explosion somewhere deep inside sent debris falling around them. Iran grabbed Luma, pulling her out of the path of a falling beam. The other captives clung to the metal supports, faces pale. The syndicate was closing in. They would not stop until every escapee was captured. Iran took a deep breath. He did not know if they would survive. But he knew one thing: he could not leave Luma behind. The first step onto the cargo bay was enough to prove their resolve. Iran held Luma's hand tightly. The station stretched out beneath them, dark and twisted. Danger surrounded them on all sides, but hope glimmered in the small group's eyes. Somewhere far away across the galaxy, forces began to notice the ripple of events. A human risking his life for an alien captive. It was unexpected, unbelievable, dangerous. And the story was only beginning. Iran looked at Luma and whispered, "We keep moving, we survive, then we fight." Luma nodded, her small hand gripping his tightly. Together, they disappeared into the shadows of the station's outer deck, each step carrying them closer to freedom and farther into the unknown. The syndicate would learn soon that a single human could not be controlled, and that one choice could ignite a chain no one expected. And in that chain, the galaxy would begin to shift. The emptiness of space stretched endlessly around the broken station. Stars twinkled cold and distant, offering no comfort, only silent witnesses to the chaos below. Iran and Luma moved carefully along the outer deck, their steps light, but the weight of exhaustion pressing down on them. The others had split up to avoid detection, leaving the two of them alone. The station groaned as if alive, its old metal joints protesting the escape. Sparks danced across exposed conduits, and the faint hum of emergency power filled the silence. Iran's ribs ached with every breath, but he ignored it. His focus was on one thing: survival. Luma's safety depended on it. He stopped for a moment, listening. Somewhere deep in the station, alarms echoed, followed by shouting and distant energy blasts. The syndicate was searching, relentless in their hunt. Their ships patrolled the space around the station, scanning for any signs of escapees. "We need a signal," Iran said quietly. Luma looked at him, puzzled. "If someone out there sees us, maybe they can help. Maybe it can stop the syndicate from catching everyone else." She frowned. "Who? Humans? They are far from here." Iran's eyes narrowed. "Not just humans. Anyone who remembers what your people did for the galaxy. They will come if they know you are in danger." He led her to a small maintenance panel. The station's systems were old, many unused for decades. Iran pried open a junction box and began working on the wiring. Sparks flew and the faint smell of ozone filled the air. His hands moved quickly, skillfully connecting lines and bypassing circuits. "What are you doing?" Luma asked, voice trembling. "Sending a signal," he said. "A call for help." "Using codes only someone with knowledge of human military tech could understand. It's risky. They could trace it back to us." Luma swallowed but did not stop him. She pressed her small hand on his shoulder. "Do it. I trust you." The signal flashed across subspace channels, carrying the message. Human code, a warning, a call for immediate aid. Somewhere in nearby systems, the message would be seen, and whoever received it would know that someone had chosen to fight, not flee. Iran leaned back, exhausted. "Now we wait," he whispered. For hours they crouched in the shadows. The station trembled around them, and distant explosions echoed from other sectors. Luma told stories in quiet tones, speaking of her people, of the worlds they had helped, of knowledge almost lost. Iran listened, amazed. Humans had survived countless dangers, but he realized the galaxy had forgotten the sacrifices of others as well. Then, in the distance, a faint light appeared. At first, it seemed like a star, too small to notice. But it grew, moving fast, splitting into multiple vessels. Iran's heart raced. Ships approached, not with hostility but with precision, intent, and purpose. "They're coming," Luma whispered, hope breaking through her fear. The syndicate's forces realized too late. Their ships were fast, but they were disorganized. A small fleet, alerted by the signal, struck with unexpected force. Syndicate vessels were disabled before they could react, their systems hacked and neutralized. Iran and Luma stepped onto a balcony overlooking the docking bay. The lights from the fleet reflected off the station's metal walls. Captives who had been trapped in holding cells were freed as the Syndicate's soldiers surrendered. Tarek and the others emerged from the tunnels, relief written on every face. Some stared at Iran with disbelief. "You did this?" Tarek asked. Iran nodded. "I just sent a signal. They chose to respond." Luma smiled, tears in her eyes. "Humans, you are capable of more than anyone imagined." As the chaos settled, Iran looked up at the approaching ships. Humans, yes, but also other species once aided by Luma's people in ancient wars. They had arrived because of trust, because of sacrifice, because one human had chosen to act. The Syndicate was finished. Their control over the station ended in hours. Captives were freed. Systems were reclaimed. And above all, the galaxy saw that a single human's choice could change outcomes that seemed impossible. Luma approached Iran. "Why did you do it?" she asked, voice soft, almost a whisper. Iran smiled faintly despite the bruises and exhaustion. "Because it was right," he said. "Sometimes that is all you need." The fleet began evacuating survivors, taking them to safe locations. Iran and Luma boarded one of the human ships, watching the station shrink into the distance. The galaxy was quiet again, but it had changed. News would spread. Across stars and systems, beings would learn that humans were unpredictable, sometimes weak, sometimes reckless, but capable of courage no one expected. And somewhere, a new alliance began to form, one that could face challenges the galaxy had never seen. Iran did not seek credit. He did not seek fame. He only knew that he had made a choice and it had mattered. Luma looked out at the stars, her small hand brushing Iran's. "Perhaps humans are not what everyone believes," she said. He nodded, gazing into the vast unknown. "They will remember this," he said. "They will remember what humans can choose to be." The ship accelerated toward the safety of a distant colony, carrying survivors and hope. And in the distance, beyond the stars, the story of one human's courage began to ripple across the galaxy, changing the way all species would think of humanity forever. The stars streaked past as the fleet carried Iran, Luma, and the freed captives toward safety. The distant worlds of the galaxy were alive with activity, but none had yet heard the full story of what had happened at the abandoned station. That story would change everything. Iran leaned against the cold metal wall of the ship. His ribs still ached, and his hands bore the marks of burns and bruises. Yet inside him, there was a quiet strength he had not known before. Luma sat beside him, small and fragile, yet filled with purpose. Her people had survived centuries in hiding, and now they had allies who would remember them. The fleet slowed as it approached a hidden colony, a place where Luma's people had taken refuge long ago. The settlement was a cluster of domed habitats built into a barren moon, shielded from sensors and prying eyes. As the ships landed, Iran saw the inhabitants emerge, pale blue-skinned, tall and graceful, their eyes wide with caution. They paused when they saw the humans. Trust had been earned slowly, and humans were often seen as unpredictable, even dangerous. Luma stepped forward, holding her hand out to Iran. "This human," she said to the gathered elders, "risked everything for me, for us, for life itself." The elders looked at Iran, some skeptical, others astonished. One stepped forward, tall and regal, her silver hair floating slightly in the low gravity. "You put yourself in danger for a single being?" she asked, voice calm but heavy with meaning. Iran nodded, wincing slightly as he shifted his weight. Because she was alive, and because it was right. Sometimes one choice can matter more than many rules or plans. The elders exchanged glances. Then one elder spoke. "Perhaps we have underestimated humans. Perhaps they are capable of more than we believed." Word of Iran's courage spread quickly through the colony. Other survivors began sharing their stories of his actions on the station. how he had risked his life to free captives, how he had saved Luma, and how he had sent the signal that brought aid. Humans who had long been considered weak and fragile were suddenly remembered in a new light. In the days that followed, the freed captives were cared for. Injuries healed, and fear began to fade. Iran refused any special recognition. He wanted nothing but a quiet life, away from glory or title. Yet every eye in the colony followed him with respect. His actions had reminded them that courage did not belong to a species, but to an individual willing to act. Luma spent hours with him, recounting her people's history, the knowledge they had preserved, and the civilizations they had aided long ago. Iran listened, fascinated. It was a reminder that the galaxy was larger than he had imagined, and that even one human could make a difference in its story. Then, word arrived that the syndicate was not finished. Other fleets were hunting them, trying to reclaim lost captives. Yet when their ships approached, they were met not with fear but with united resistance. Humans, Luma's people, and other species once saved by her ancestors had come together. The galaxy had seen that one act of bravery could inspire many, and that humans could no longer be underestimated. Iran and Luma watched from the colony's observation deck as syndicate ships were disabled without bloodshed. The fleets moved with precision, guided by trust and strategy. Humans had proven that courage and choice could outweigh raw power. Luma turned to Iran. "You have changed everything," she said softly. "Not just for me, but for everyone. They will see humans differently now." Iran shook his head. "I just did what I thought was right," he said. "It is not about power. It is about choosing to act when no one else will." For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the weight of what had happened. One choice, one moment, had altered the lives of hundreds. And somewhere in the galaxy, the story of a human who risked everything for an alien captive would ripple outward, shaping alliances, changing perceptions, and inspiring others to act with courage. The stars beyond the observation deck shimmered like a promise. Iran knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had seen the value of compassion and bravery, and humans, often underestimated and overlooked, would never again be seen as weak. He looked at Luma and smiled faintly. "We survived," he said, "and now perhaps we can help make the galaxy a little better." She nodded, her small hand resting on his arm. Together they turned to watch the fleet depart, carrying freedom, hope, and the memory of one human's choice that had changed everything. The galaxy would remember. And humanity, for the first time in a long time, would be remembered not for weakness, but for courage, compassion, and the power to make a difference. Everyone was shocked when a human risked his life to rescue an enslaved alien. Sci-Fi, HFY Reddit.